All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Apostates. I am Ren, and I'm here by myself for just a moment. I will be joined uh, very shortly by my co-host Dallas, and hopefully there will be another special guest later. Let's see. I, there we
I'm
go.
late. It was a game time decision. I realized at some point I'm gonna be putting something other than liquids in my mouth, so I can't. I didn't. I decided against fangs tonight.
Speaking of putting things in my mouth, I found this thing at the store the other day,
Oh
and
no,
it's this ghost pepper sauce. And the thing is,
ghost pepper.
the reason I got it is because you go to most things that say they're ghost pepper sauce, and what it is
Mm-hmm.
the first ingredient is water, then the second ingredient is like Thai peppers, then the third ingredient is like red pepper. It's like generic other peppers. The fourth ingredient is ghost pepper. This one,
In other words, it does not. In other words, you do not get to the ghost pepper till you've sweated some other things out.
exactly. And I get it. I get you want other ingredients because ghost pepper itself tastes like shit. But,
Yeah.
but this one, first ingredient, Naga Jalokia. So there we go. Now, second ingredient, chili pepper, then it's water, salt, garlic, modified cornstarch. There's basically nothing else in it but pepper. So I thought, you know what? For once, I am going to go for it, and I'm going to get the ghost pepper. So
So, in other words, we are going to witness you indulging in culinary masochism.
I've got two chicken nuggets here, and the
Nuggets.
reason
Mm-hmm.
control group.
Wait, where are the nuggets from?
Oh, I can't remember the name. Uh, it's a blue bag. They're very cheap. They're not. They're terrible microwaved, but they are fantastic air fried. Anyway, and to prove that I'm not screwing around or playing some sort of sleight of hand,
Sounds regional, and regional is usually good.
yeah. So here we go. I am not screwing around.
Oh yeah.
There we go.
Oh shit.
It smells kind of fruity, It smells like
Hmm.
I can actually smell the pepper. So here we go down the hatch.
Burn the witch! Burn the witch!
The first thing I want to say is it
Mm-hmm.
tastes like shit. Ghost pepper, you need to do something with it. So, like, it's hot, right? Like, it's hot.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
what it's not is flavorful. You
So
get
we are not talking Scotch bonnet where you can at least, if you, it's hot, but at least it brings something other than heat to the table.
that's the thing. Like, I can tell you, like, I'm feeling a lot of heat. I'm feeling fire.
Mm-hmm.
You are going to see me do a lot of rubbing my nose and generally, I'll probably be
Yeah.
sweating at some point. But aside from that, honestly, I'm not getting any flavor. It has That's the problem with ghost pepper is it needs something else. So that's why I'm happy to see it's the first ingredient because you need that heat. But you know what it does need after that? It needs some fruitiness.
It needs flavor.
Yeah, you got to get some pineapple. You got to get some mango. You got to get some citrus. You need something to give it a reason to be there except to be kiss my ass hot.
And I think that's why most people, at least us people from the islands, they tend to look at this whole pepper, this arms race of pepper, just being like, what are they doing over there, and
Well,
why?
that's the thing. Heat for heat's sake.
Is
I,
dumb.
I say this as a white is a white person thing. Heat for heat's sake is just
It's
it's
dumb.
it's borderline bro culture. It's like
It's dumb.
yeah.
It's dumb, and I mean, if you like to flambe portions of your rectal tissue, go for it. I'm just going to judge you for it. I'm just going to judge you. like if burning chunks of your rectal tissue and chunks of your esophagus and drinking more milk than you ever did as a 5-year-old is
See,
what you want to do,
I've got lactose issues, so I don't. I can. I
you're
can
just
have.
handicapping yourself here.
No, I got water, and I realize water just sloshes it around. But I mean, ultimately, it's something.
Yeah.
Um, Even if it is a placebo effect, I mean, it's a good effect. I like having a placebo effect if it makes me think that I'm getting some relief. I'll take the thinking. But anyway, I'm on the search for the ultimate hot sauce, one that is extremely hot but also delicious. See,
Oh, it's the also delicious is where you're gonna run into the trouble.
that's the problem. The thing is, mango habanero is great, but it's not the pinnacle of heat. It's
No,
habanero, you know?
I wouldn't say it's not the pinnacle of heat. It's just the pinnacle of heat if you want something with some flavor. Or I know if you certain sauces, if you invite Scotch bonnet to the party, it's not too bad. You know that it's one of those things that I've never really heard of people like genuinely cooking with anything beyond that, beyond that habanero Scotch bonnet, that area. Once you get into your ghost peppers, your reaper peppers, your ghost reapers, your pepper X's, it's not even about the food anymore, boo boo.
Well, that's the
It's
thing.
about how bad you want to hurt yourself.
Ghost pepper to me represents where the next frontier can go for making something that's worth eating and still has taste. Because there's still a way to temper the heat from the ghost pepper,
Mhm.
and there's definitely a place where flavor can get in that isn't completely overridden by the heat. This isn't it because it has no other flavor because the only other things in it aside from ghost pepper are other peppers. So it solved the part of the ghost pepper not being in enough by having the ghost pepper be at the top. But it's still just a bunch of other peppers. And
Of
those other
course.
peppers are pepper taste. So it's not going to take away the fact that ghost pepper tastes like shit. It needs to have pineapple, peach, mango,
Mango.
you know,
Just something in order to carry it through.
yeah. I mean, if it were me, it would be a mix of some like island fruit and citrus. There would be some mango, there would be some lemon,
In other words, give me ghost pepper mango or give me death.
yeah. I mean, mango habanero works because the mango is delicious, and I mean, habanero is its own fruitiness.
Mango, this is gonna probably get me kicked out of so many Jamaican WhatsApp groups or whatever the fuck. But yeah, I don't really do mango.
Okay.
Just can't. I like literally, there are parts of my life where I can definitely say I literally had it growing wild around me and I wanted none of it.
Well, I mean, it's like if you live in New York City, do you ever go to see the Statue of Liberty?
Why? Yeah, it's like, why would you? Like, or you live in New York City. Do you admit that Staten Island is a legit borough? No, you don't.
I think
I'm
that's
sorry. No, I have never seen a New Yorker, a valid New Yorker, ever admit to Staten Island's existence. They know it's there. They won't discuss it. It's just the only thing they'll tell you is, yeah, that's where Wu-Tang comes from, and that's it. Beyond that, like Staten Island does not exist in their imagination. I always assumed it's because of how red it is.
I think it's just because it could practically be annexed by New Jersey, and the rest of New York would be like, okay.
All right, bye. Like I said, I always assumed it was because of how red it is. Like Staten Island is basically, it sells itself as a MAGA stronghold. So I'm assuming that's why the rest of New York just pretty much is like, well, honestly, fuck those guys.
I feel like Perth Amboy could get exercise eminent domain and just take it. And
it really wouldn't hurt anyone. I don't think anyone would be too mad.
I don't even think the people of Staten Island would notice. Can you believe that borough gave us both Pete Davidson and Colin Jost?
And the Wu-Tang Clan.
Maybe
it's just good to be from Staten Island and not necessarily living there if you either are not white. Yeah, I think I tried. It's good to be from there. In other words, it tells everyone, all your life you had to fight. You're from Staten Island. I'm like, oh, okay. No, I hear you.
So we're doing a bit of a free for all episode. There's no form or news that we were gonna discuss.
Yeah, we already know what's happening. We know.
Yeah,
it's like, baby, we know. We know.
The news
it's not pretty.
Not changed for multiple weeks. I mean,
well, no, Mike Johnson. Listen, the waiting for the tea on Mike Johnson is a wait.
Pouring over he and his wife's podcast, which they tried to scrub from the internet. But
yeah, and I'm like, listen, if you scrubbing your podcast from the internet, then you're not up to any good. If you're scrubbing your wifey's counseling business website from the internet, you're not up to no good. If you've poofed your adopted Black son's virtual existence, you're not up to any goddamn good. You're not. That man has some secrets.
I will refrain from being a part of that discussion because I don't think I have the bandwidth for that.
All I know is, personally, I would start to... if I was an intrepid reporter, I would start to ask the Rent boys to see if they know anybody who knows anybody.
It is giving off vibes of sort of Matt Gaetz, and also Franklin Graham.
Yes. There are unsettling things I have heard about the scion of the late Billy Graham, and I've usually chalked them up as rumor. By the way, this is sugar-free mead. This is zero sugar mead.
Nice.
It exists.
That sounds awesome.
Oh yeah, no. It's great. I'm having it with Coke. Sometimes I'll have it straight, but
nice. I didn't know you could make mead with zero sugar.
I didn't know either, but I saw it while I was still working at the liquor store, and I'm just like,
they are making progress. It's funny. They should have just gone that way the whole time. How do we make alcohol healthier? I know, we'll take the alcohol out of it. In the 90s, that gave us Zima. And you know what? People who don't drink, I have found, and this includes me, there was a period of time where I was completely sober for many, many years. The one thing and I can't speak for everybody who's sober, but a lot of people who are sober are never looking for is alcohol substitutes. They just drink other things.
Yeah.
But people who drink alcohol would love healthier versions of alcoholic beverages.
Facts.
So Zima was a swing and a mix, but sugar-free mead, that sounds
Oh
amazing.
yeah, no, I'm like, listen, with the fact that one of the symptoms of long COVID, one of the little presents long COVID leaves people is diabetes. Usually it's type 1, but occasionally some type 2 can sneak in there. I think we're going to see more people are going to subtly start marketing saying, hey, listen, yes, we do have sugar-free shit.
I will tell you.
They're just going to say suffer, fatty.
Well, I will say that, after I got COVID, my diet didn't change, but my blood sugar sure as hell spiked and just kept getting higher and higher. And I was able to drop my A1C by 0.8 in 5 months without any medicine.
Nice.
Just by changing how I ate and how I drank. And I've kept it, I've eliminated regular soda entirely for one thing.
Same here.
And such other things, less volume as well. But the thing is, after COVID, despite the fact that I still had the same eating habits I'd had for the prior 10 years, and my blood sugar always stayed the same, after COVID, it just it like went up
Yeah.
like crazy. So
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's something that people don't want to have a conversation about. That COVID doesn't just fuck with your lungs because it's a vascular disease. It's going to fuck with a lot of other shit.
it's one of those things I suspected for a while that it's just damages your nerves. It doesn't matter what kind of nerves. It damages your nerves. It damages the nerves in your lungs, in your brain, in your intestines.
Mm-hmm.
And now look, I lest I be accused of COVID misinformation and get this struck from YouTube or whatever. I don't know. I'm just speculating.
Yeah. Yeah, the most I'll say is that it's a vascular disease, and so as a result, a lot of stuff gets hurt along the way.
I mean, I think there's very few reasons to explain why why it affects people's like ability to smell, but also their intestines, but also their lungs, but also causes confusion and memory loss.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that's the funny thing we find ourselves in right now is that there isn't really a lot of breaking news
It's
in the sense that like things are consistently happening. There's like new shit every day, but there's nothing that's changing directly.
truly, there's nothing that's truly earth shaking. I will say though, right now I've got like half an eye on Kenya, watching this royal visit unfold, because honestly, they're not having a good time. They're gonna pretend to have a good time, but it's not like the old days, and they know it.
Let's
Kenya,
talk about, for
mm-hmm.
anybody watching who doesn't know, I mean, this trip has been planned for a while, but what Kenya did was they sent a demand letter ahead of King Charles' visit. And that is wicked
That's
awesome.
That's the game changer. That's the thing that the fact that the demand letter hit social media. Almost the demand letter was the only way many people on social media even knew the visit was happening.
If Liz were alive, they would never.
They would never have done that. They would have had a private sit down, a conversation. There would not have been yo, since you new here, let me tell you something that we wanted to talk about earlier, but now we have a chance. Since you here now, we need to talk to you. We need to talk to you about prisoners during the Mau Mau Rebellion whose remains you ain't returned or told us where they are. Shit you stole 200 years ago that's in the British Museum. We want that shit back. We have things we need to discuss. Usually when the Crown visits a part of the Commonwealth, especially the browner parts of the Commonwealth, there's usually not a demand letter. There's usually an open greeting letter saying, despite the crumbs and the debt we're in, look at all the shit we did to improve. Come pat us on the head, mummy.
But I mean, King Chucklefuck should have seen this coming ever since William and Kate went to Jamaica and got a very less than stellar reception.
PM Holness literally said, "Oh, you here? No, don't sit down. Don't sit down. You don't need to sit down for this one. No. We just came to let. We're happy to see you here, but honestly, we're looking into becoming a republic. No, there's some cake and tea in the other room. You can stand for that. You can stand for that as well."
Yeah, me and Barbuda have been talking, and we're kind of
And I'm going to be honest, it's going to take a while. Jamaica probably will not be officially a republic for the next 10 to 15 years, but what's going to take 10 to 15 years was not in the cards for another 50. But I personally believe that the Commonwealth did take what he did to Harry very personally, and they decided, why are we here? With Jamaica, you have to compound also Windrush and various other slights and bullshit till they hit their limit. And right now, between the way Suella Braverman's been acting and everything else, I don't blame them at all. I really don't. This should be fun.
I really want to see like King Chucklefuck ride in on his horse and Kenya just, and you know what? You can take that comment however you want.
There's already been protests, luckily enough. There was already cost of living protests in Kenya. Now there's additional protests basically saying, where's our shit? Why are you like this? Why did you even fucking come? So honestly, I'm kind like, listen, I'm not just enjoying the unrest because I'm a chaos, because my inner chaos a lot. It wants to remain moisturized, unbothered, and in its lane. I'm enjoying this because it's a wonderful show of actions have consequences. You shouldn't have had this big ostentatious coronation that nobody wanted to go to.
And you shouldn't have treated Meghan like that. Look, even if every story that they tried to leak out about Meghan were true, and I fucking doubt it, like, they still were horrible to her. Like, there's no excuse for any of that.
Really,
and I don't care what has to say about them being, out of touch wealthy people, and they fucking are.
They are. Ultimately, no one's denying that. But right now, I'm enjoying the fact that they are unintentionally the lodestone that's being kicked out. That's going to cause the whole thing to that may cause the whole thing to crumble.
Yeah, that's the only valid criticism of Meghan and Harry is that they're out of touch wealthy people who just don't get it, and that criticism cannot come from up on high. It has to come from us. It has to come from people who are like, oh, they got a $25 million Netflix deal and they're complaining about how they got cut off from the family, boo-hoo, whatever. But instead, you get to hear about the horrible things they said to Meghan, the horrifying comments they said to Harry about Meghan, and just the way they have treated them as persona non grata ever since they got together. And you get the rest of the people, this could have been, if the royal family had handled this well and welcomed Meghan into open arms, and the family had been nice and happy, and everything would have just been kept, if people
copacetic, and if people acted right,
there would never be these conversations from all their different Commonwealth, area. There would have never been this conversations like, we're not too keen on the monarchy anymore. Or they're never going to get a demand letter saying, hey, we want you to send back our shit. We want reparations. Like they said in the letter, we want reparations. You owe us that. You owe us a lot.
They were on like these Commonwealth countries, especially your browner, your African, your South American, your Caribbean Commonwealth countries are getting on that Rihanna time and saying, bitch better have my money. Pay me what you owe me. Pay me what you owe me. They've been, and the thing is, it's not like Britain hasn't paid out reparations before. They've paid out reparations to former slave owners, so it's not like they can't. It's just that they won't.
I have this personal like thing where I feel like, so if I ever became president, one of the first things I would do is issue a recovery grant to Haiti in the exact amount of money they paid to France over the course of the last 100 whatever years. And I would have just been like, no reason. Here, do some infrastructure repairs, whatever. You got this.
And basically be a question of, what to do with it. Don't be idiots. It's like, what to do with it. And just be like, and chances are many of them will just be like, just give France their money so that they can fucking leave us alone. And it would be a case of, now we're truly independent. I don't know what the fuck you guys were doing, but actually you do owe us. Now that we've paid you back, let's bring up some shit that we never had a good conversation about.
Yeah. Ultimately, it would be a nice backdoor way, since, president has a little bit of leeway in offering aid and relief and things like that. It would be a great way to get the ball rolling. Like, if we were to give aid to Haiti in a backhanded way against France as a sort of backdoor reparations, but we wouldn't call it that, then it would start a public pressure groundswell for reparations in the United
States. And it would be the kind of situation where you would see, it would be a kind of situation where at first people would be upset that you gave it to a Caribbean nation first. But as if in your fictional presidency, as you are saying, no, I'm willing to hear everyone out on the reparations, I think that would actually get the ball rolling. Some people would be very upset about it. Mike Johnson would probably shit himself.
When it comes to stuff like that, you can't tell people that. You can't say, hey, let's talk about reparations for, people in the United States, because the conversation stops.
Yeah, I would say
any popular movement starts from the bottom. So you've got to work within your power to do the things you can. And that involves a little bit of subterfuge.
And honestly, I think we should look past money as far as reparations. I've always believed that one of the things we should do is amnesty for marijuana charges.
Oh my fucking God.
Amnesty for for all federal marijuana charges, pressing the states to do the same if you have, and licensure set-asides. I am tired of we live near a couple dispensaries. I think only one is owned by a Black woman, and I think one smoke shop is owned by a Black woman.
There's actually an incredible sort of video essay about the legalization of marijuana by YouTube channel Some More News, and it basically goes into great detail, very thorough detail about how the legalization of weed has basically led to a bunch of venture capitalists taking over.
Venture capitalist bros. Those are the people who own a lot of the licenses and own a lot of the companies. Because I remember when it was for me and my best friend talked about what if we learned how to properly bake, one good solid red velvet cake or green velvet cake recipe, one solid recipe. And we worked on that, and then maybe we started on, in other words, we were thinking solid weed infused pastries, just good solid pastries. And then we decided to look up to see how much a weed license was, and we nearly shit ourselves.
Yeah. That's where, reparations doesn't have to just be a cash payout. It could be in the form of things like infrastructure repair. First dibs at here's the thing. With discrimination law, constitutional law being what it is, it would easily be challenged if we said,
like they did with the farmers.
If
that's been going on with farmers.
Dibs. But we say, all right, here are the type of infrastructure repairs or educational grants to here and there that aren't specifically targeting people of color, but will disproportionately help them. In the meantime, you say, if you can prove through this, and this a specific harm, then you get a specific grant of another type. Unfair? Yes, but working within the system?
Yeah. It's like the law is an ass, and of course, there's the spirit of the law and the letter of the law. So it would be a case of, can you prove that there has been that where you're from, there's a disproportionate amount of marijuana arrests that were expunged between this state and this state? Yes, I can prove that. Or can you prove that you have multiple members of your family that serve time due to marijuana charges? Yes, I can prove that. That is probably one way you can actually do that without it saying, hey, this is for a Black person, this is for an Indigenous person, this is for a BIPOC person.
One thought I had, and the reason I go for infrastructure is it's just that through the history, I know that, they like to pretend CRT, there's no such thing as systemic racism.
Yeah, but there is.
Areas of infrastructure in any community after basically people of color are boxed into these specific homes in these
Mm-hmm.
specific parts of these specific cities because people wouldn't fucking lend to them, and basically this shit goes through generations. Those areas of the cities, those areas of the country, those areas of everywhere tend to get ignored for needed repairs or maintenance or upkeep more than anywhere else.
Or the
So,
only thing that they upkeep is, or the only thing they upkeep is the fucking highway that runs through it.
yeah, well, yeah, the highway's the magical cutting tool that also. So, I mean, oh my gosh, I love, and by love I mean I'm horrified looking at like how the highways have these really weird and unusual shapes, and then oh, okay, I guess that's why, because all the white families live in the places where if the highway went straight, could cut through those towns. But
Yeah.
anyway, my idea would be that okay, biggest infrastructure repair that is necessary to my mind right now is removing lead from the water supplies. And if we were to fund, like, let's say $1 trillion for the restoration of pipes and water supplies and damage, this would disproportionately help communities of color, Native Americans, to a degree that is insane, without it being challenged in the courts as illegal because it's saying, okay, this is like a reparations program for people of color. Yeah. I think reparations need to be something that's a program, not
it's a way that has to be. It's a way that has to be coached in order for it to pass the system, the legal smell test, and because honestly, white people don't like the idea of any of people who aren't them getting something that'll benefit them. Why lie?
See, I don't know why. It's fun. It's a funny trick that a lot of these sort of arch conservatives do, where they love to pretend that there's no such thing as institutional racism that goes through generations, and yet at the same time they go, there shouldn't be a death tax. Okay, so you get that money goes down through generations. You get that part.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you not get that poverty goes down through generations? If wealth goes through generations, how do you? But it's a game. They know.
They know. Just like how they say, just like how right now some people are mad because they finally took down the Robert E. Lee statue in Charlottesville. Oh no! And I'm like, they're like, there's not a problem. I'm like, then why when they took the statue down, they had to do it like practically at the dead of night. They didn't announce that the statue had been dismantled until like 2 days after the fact at a foundry whose name you do not know, in a location you do not know, in a state you do not know. The personnel who worked the dismantling of that statue, those names are kept confidential. Why do you think that is?
Is it because they're afraid they're going to do a terrorism?
I would. Yeah, I mean, listen, I have a feeling that if they'd have known, they would have probably had a way to either cut off electricity or cut off all driving routes to that plant. I'm pretty sure that's what we'd be dealing with.
As much, I am anti-death penalty for many reasons, but a big one, of course, is how imperfect the justice system is. But from a realpolitik point of view, when it comes to things like rebellions, insurrections, revolutions, and stuff like that, the winner is better off executing the brass of the other side.
Like I said, Lincoln wasted perfectly good rope on the Lakota. He did not need to hang them people. He should have hung. There were perfectly fine Confederate necks that needed stretching instead. I said what I said.
It's just you hang the officers and generals and you leave the rest to ponder that example.
Yeah, I honestly believe that Reconstruction could have ended when it ended with much less bloody results for the Black community had Lincoln said, yeah, that's great. we're hanging everybody. We're hanging everybody like it's old school. We're hanging Davis, we're hanging Lee. We're not doing it privately either. We're doing it in public, then we're tossing their bodies into the ocean. We're not doing this today. I am tired. And I think if he'd have hung them and tossed them into the ocean, I think obviously either the Klan would be a lot smaller or it would have been a lot less organized. And the Lily Whites that took over like a goddamn sleeper cell in the Republican Party probably would have been slowed down, if not outright neutralized. I said what I said. People don't like talking about the Lily Whites.
They should have hung Lee. They should have hung Davis. They should have hung every officer and general. It's like, my grandfather fought in it. Okay, was he an officer?
Yeah.
Then he's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not fine, but he wouldn't have been executed. So
yeah, he would have just gone back to his little hayseed bit of land, and he would have just had to learn to work with whatever black person was working the plot next to him, and he would have had to build a bridge and fucking get over it.
So I want to I want to talk specifically about a current event right now. We haven't talked much after the first night about Israel and Palestine, and I think there are a lot of reasons. There's not much to add more than has already been said. Things just continue to happen, but specifically, we talked the first night about, because the night of the hospital bombing, we talked on and off the show about what we thought was the truth behind what happened. And the idea is, to a certain extent, it matters completely, and to another extent, it doesn't really matter, because ultimately, even if Hamas is the one that bombed that hospital, Israel bombed several other hospitals.
Facts.
The other part of it is Israel also issued warnings saying, hey, you should leave the hospital because we're going to be doing some bombing.
And go where?
Yeah, and then there was also the fact that right after the bombing, one of Israel officials posted a tweet saying that they bombed the hospital and then took that tweet down. And then they posted proof that the hospital bombing was really Hamas, and every piece of evidence that they've shown saying that it really was Hamas has been, like, you know, from different times, from different bombs.
All I know is right now, CNN has posted that the IDF has admitted that they caused a bombing at a refugee camp. And I'm like...
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that specifically because the tweet that CNN wrote, and I'm going to read it verbatim from what.
Please do, because I looked at it and I quote tweeted that, like, excuse me.
Just in, Israel confirms an IDF attack caused the massive blast at Gaza's largest refugee camp that has reportedly left many people dead and injured. First of all, what in the holy fucking
that just sounds like the most, like, that was the police officer special. That is the same way your local news talks about the police department shooting an unarmed civilian. That's what it's giving. It's giving police department press release.
It's just the tortured way that sentence goes about to avoid saying the IDF slaughtered refugees. Here's something that's amazing. Piers Morgan, of all people.
Yeah, I think I might have heard about this.
This is bullshit. Yeah. Paraphrasing. You have lost Piers Morgan, IDF.
And how you lose...
Like, he took time out of his busy day from hate wanking at Meghan Markle in order to go online and say, yo, the IDF is doing war crimes.
And I'm just like, how the fuck do you lose Piers fucking Morgan? How?
It's just insane.
How?
The tortured way that sentence was structured.
Like I said, I
already used the most amount of passive voice anyone has ever used in writing a headline.
If it were any passive, it would have asked me for a bottle of leather cleaner, if you know what I mean.
Yikes.
Yeah. If it were any more passive.
But it's stunning, and the reason it brings me back to the bombing of the hospital, because ultimately we don't know for sure who bombed that hospital.
Yeah.
But I'm here to tell you that I put far more of my money on the fact that it was Israel and the IDF. The reason being is because bombing a hospital is a thing they do, and a thing they've
They
done.
have done it before. It's a history. You're looking at the history of it. You're like, they've done it before. They'll do it again. They are the crazy friend at the bar. Listen, the government of Israel is the crazy friend at the bar. You're only friends with them so that they don't go any crazier. But they're testing you.
And here's the thing, and we talked about this before. What Hamas did, that raid, the number of people they killed, the number of innocent civilians they killed and kidnapped, the brutality of it and the precision of it, it was like an Einsatzgruppen raid. It was
very much so
violent, it was sudden, and it was brutal.
And it was traumatic.
The kind of thing that does demand a response. Yeah. It demands a decisive response.
Yeah.
But the response's demand is not fucking this.
It's not. It's really not this. It's really not. I understand self-defense, but it's not. It's not this. This is not it. This ain't it, Chief. It's really not it.
Well, there are fringe voices, indeed, on the left who refer to Hamas as resistance. And there's a lot of history there. There's a lot of reason. Like, you can say all the things, like, Hamas would not exist if it weren't for the conditions in Palestine. Fine. That still doesn't make what Hamas did better. So good or justified in any way. So the people on the fringe, the few people there are who are saying that Hamas in some ways is justified. And again, these are people in the fringe. These are not people who are saying, whatever. But I'm just saying, the people who are saying that, they are out there, that, settlers and colonialists deserve what they get. Those people are psychopaths, and they are not to be listened to. They're not serious people. They don't need to be listened to. And crucially, they don't hold any government power. Those are not people who hold the levers of our funding to Israel or to any other country. Those are not the people who make policy. Those are not even people who influence policy. You could point to a few freshman idiots at some schools who have said something like that, but what a lot of people are doing is taking those idiots who have said, I'm with Hamas, and saying this represents everybody who is for Palestinian liberation. Or supports Palestinians. That's a load of bullshit. And it is the same load of bullshit as somebody who says that the IDF or Israel represents all of Judaism. It's the same level of bullshit. It's when people start saying that the state is the people or the people are the state, it is people finding a way to justify the kind of extremism they have in their heart. It's the kind of people who want to say that somebody should die. It should be a different somebody than the people on that side. Maybe we should just not have so many innocent casualties. And the other part of it is these protests are propping up. Greg Gutfeld was on a show the other day and talking like, where were all the protests on October 8th over what Hamas did? And like, we don't fund Hamas. So we really don't. What would people protest? Boo Hamas. That doesn't do anything. The reason people are protesting is because we have the power to influence Israeli policy by withholding support, by withholding future support, by saying we are not going to be with you on this trip if you decide to go in bombing churches, hospitals, refugee camps, or cutting off water to 2 million people. And so that's the reason that I am just so fed up with this. I think everyone who knows the extensive history of Israel and Palestine knows that when Hamas committed this horrific slaughter, the response was not going to be measured proportionately at all. And that's where this is all coming from. Because here, the crucial thing is people who support Palestinians as they are under siege know that their support for Palestinians are going to be used to call them anti-Semitic. And there are absolutely anti-Semites who support Palestine, like Nick Fuentes, because they see Palestine as a means to an end. But crucially, that also
they don't love them people.
That he's viewing Palestinians as analogous to Hamas too. So it's the similar sort of viewing the people as the state.
Yeah. And it's a case of they don't love them people. It's like you got white nationalists on one side, Christian nationalists and rapture Yahtzee people with bad main character theology on the other. Because they like, and you just want to be like, they don't love them people. They really don't.
Evangelical Christian Zionists are basically people who view all of Judaism as an NPC religion. It's
basically
like
and they view Palestinian Christian and they view Palestinian Christians even worse. It's almost like they don't exist. They've nerfed an entire section of the church like they literally do not exist.
Because crucially, there are Palestinian Jews. I don't know if people like Lindsey Graham or Ted Cruz or the biggest psychopath on Twitter, Joe Walsh. Joe Walsh is a great reminder for people that just because a Republican
because you don't like Trump does not make you a good person.
It's the same thing.
It just means you don't like Trump.
Yeah, so I have to reiterate again and again because it's kind of a trope where when you try to discuss the atrocities being committed against Palestine and Palestinians, people immediately assume it's because you don't care about Israelis or you don't care about the targets of anti-Semitic violence that Israel, because Hamas's charter says, we want to eliminate the Jews. So they are not resistance. They are a fucking terrorist group who hold the reins of government in Gaza because they got a plurality of votes in the last election that was held 16 years ago. And I'm willing to bet that was a totally free and fair election. But anyway.
And considering that Gaza on average is one of the youngest regions in the world, it's like, listen, yes, legally speaking, Hamas as a political party does control the region, but it was voted on when a majority of the people who presently live in Gaza either were not eligible to vote or did not simply exist.
And for whatever reason, people want to talk about when this is like, people have endlessly debated one-state solution, two-state solution, and a lot of people think that one or the other is stupid and the other is good. I don't know what's stupid or good, but I know that if the solution involves either Israelis or Palestinians having to leave Israel or Palestine, it's not a solution.
It's not. It's just a stopgap.
So it either needs to be one state or two state, but it needs to be there. Israelis can't leave. Palestinians
won't leave. They won't leave.
There needs to be a solution that doesn't involve having to wipe Gaza off the face of the earth and push all the Palestinians out into the Sinai Peninsula.
Which to me is just, it's like, this is like, I'm just left with the feeling of, didn't you go through? Turning the tables isn't creating a solution. Turning the tables is just turning the tables and creating another revolution of the cycle. You're not doing anything.
Ultimately, there needs to be a version of this that ends where the solution isn't, we have to kill all the other ones.
Yeah, I'm going to need I need Doctor Strange, because I'm sure he's run at least 4,000 different simulations on this. At least 4,000.
So whether it's a one-state solution that involves Israel becoming a true democracy
and having and having a proper power sharing agreement,
or whether it's a two-state solution where Palestine and Israel have defined borders, and there isn't any more of this, open air prison bullshit or incursions into the West Bank where they start taking people's homes and shit.
I don't think
And
they
I
gonna do
do
all
want to
that.
respond to one thing, because I see a lot of people denying that Gaza is some kind of open air prison, because I guess I don't know, of
I
its sheer
wouldn't.
size.
The
A
thing
lot
is,
of it,
I
well,
think it's a semantic thing.
it
I
is,
consider it
but
kind of an open air ghetto a la Warsaw,
it
and most people are like, and I'm like,
it's one of
but
those
did
things
I
where people
lie?
want to argue semantics, but it is important
Mm-hmm.
to get right, because the propaganda put out by the IDF about Gaza is this sort of fact-free Trumpian. It's a very fascist, denying reality, in the sense that you'll see people go on television and say, and I can't, I wish I remember who it was that was speaking on CNN, but he was a former Israeli minister, current Israeli government official, saying that, we're just not, we don't have to provide them water. Anyone could provide them water. But we know that's not true, because crucially, Palestinians cannot build
Their
power
own
infrastructure.
wells.
They cannot build their own wells. They have to get permits. And I'm telling you, this is, so I can't remember if it was the Atlantic or Time, but they went into great detail about the inability of anyone to get permits or permission to dig their own water or power infrastructure. It is
And they
crucially
will,
controlled from the outside by
sorry,
Israel.
and the
That's
Israeli state will seal that goddamn well if you dig one. They will do it. They do not. They will do it.
as they have done. And there's also the aspect, people say it's not an open air prison because there are gates on the Egypt side, and there are Palestinians that enter and exit for work. Crucially, these gates are where most people, and I do mean most, are not allowed out of. There are about 15 to 20,000 Palestinians who are able to freely enter and exit, well, were into Israel. The rest of the 2 million people are not, living in a country with unemployment over 40%. Now, to give you an idea of what it, and the listener, the watcher, whoever is
Mm-hmm.
viewing this, an idea, during the Great Depression, the average unemployment was under 30% in the United States. Palestinian
White,
unemployment is over
white or
40.
black?
We're talking about in the aggregate at the whole country. But
Okay.
understand with, Palestinian, it's different situation in the United States, because it's a lot, there's it's its own little apartheid system, not a whole big
Yeah.
apartheid system
It's not a big,
like
huge
our
de
country at the
jure.
time.
Yeah, it's not a big, huge de jure apartheid system. It's just kind of like there's this default kind of, there are just kind of things that you're not going to get, where if you commit a crime and you're a Palestinian, they treat it like a military tribunal. If you are Israeli and you commit a crime, it's treated like a regular ass civil court, which is like, bruh, come on.
Ultimately, people are responsible for their own actions, and
Facts.
Hamas's actions were horrific terrorism, reminiscent of Nazi death squad raids.
Yeah.
However, it is also important to illustrate that Netanyahu and previous prime ministers have supported clandestinely Hamas, and have said that Hamas is useful in keeping the West Bank and Gaza from unification, and for keeping Palestinians further apart from Israelis. It is a strategy and a political one. Now, Iran, and there, Hamas may be getting a lot of support from enemies of Israel, but they have also gotten support from government officials in Israel. Netanyahu himself has said that if you want to prevent Palestinian liberation, you would do best to support Hamas. So there is a lot of history here, and
Yeah.
it's complicated. I am not saying that if there were no, open air prison in Gaza, and if there were no settlers taking Palestinian homes away, that there would be no such thing as terrorism against Israel. But I
No,
am
there would
saying
still be.
that if you create a pressure cooker like that, there are certain things that are very predictable. Not excusable, but very predictable. So I think I wish I could remember who said the quote best, but if you take away the means to protest peacefully, the only alternative left is no peace. That is not, again, to excuse the targeting of civilians, because it is abhorrent and terrifying, but it does offer context into why something like this would happen. And when Israel goes and bombs hospitals, churches, and refugee camps, they are creating more Hamas. They are creating future terrorism.
Yeah.
And it does not make the actions of future individual terrorists justified, but it's one of those things that it just, well, there's a proximate cause and there's a but-for cause. And the proximate cause of terrorism and targeting civilians by Hamas is Hamas. But you take away the elements like their apartheid state and their open-air prison and the constant... You know that the Great March of Return years ago, right after Trump moved the embassy to Jerusalem?
Yeah.
The IDF shot and killed hundreds and injured over 1,000.
And I know that there was a shooting at a mosque. I think toward the end of the year there was also like they'd had some shootings at there was a series of shootings, a series of disturbances at a mosque, and I'm like, why are you invading someone's religious space? What are we doing? What are we doing, guys?
This is a really horrible situation. You've got instances of anti-Semitism across, like, rising. You've got instances of anti-Muslim threats and violence rising.
Yeah.
The only thing this does is give people more of an excuse for their bloodlust.
Basically, yeah. You've got people. Yeah, you have a well-known and well-liked Muslim physician, a pediatrician. She was sitting at a picnic table. She was stabbed to death. There were 17 people in the area who were armed. So much for a good guy with a gun. My guess is because she was an older woman, not attractive woman, and because the attacker looked more like them than she did. So much for that. This was in Texas.
And then, of course, there was the 6-year-old boy and his mother
in Chicago.
And then there's also, they don't know who did it yet, but there's also the synagogue president
who was stabbed.
There was the Jewish residents of Germany who had the Star of David spray paint on their homes, many such instances. There was the
synagogue in Tunisia.
Yeah. There was in the United States one of our, I don't remember if it was a rep or a senator, Jewish woman who someone threatened to murder and, quote, finish what Hitler started. Instances of hatred for anti-Semitic hatred, anti-Muslim hatred are rising everywhere because of this. And what would truly have helped is if after Hamas committed that terrorist attack, there was actually a measured use of human intelligence and other forms of intelligence that intelligence agencies in the military supposedly have, because they seem to know where Hamas is usually. You don't need to drop 6,000 bombs in a week and kill 9,000 civilians to target Hamas. There may
70-something entire family lines absolutely gone from the face of the earth.
There are small-scale military raids. You control the borders of Gaza. It's not like it getting in is going to be a problem.
Exactly.
You have intelligence, you have telecommunication, you control the power and water. You could go in with human beings.
Yeah.
And you can conduct raids, and you could do precision targeted small-scale strikes on where you happen to know launch locations are, but not leveling blocks by blocks.
Entire blocks of places. That was unnecessary.
It's getting to the point where the disinformation is so potent and so easily disproven that I'm honestly never sure when I hear that this location was, Hamas is hiding here, Hamas is hiding there. Are they?
But exactly.
I mean, you're able to tell where journalists are when you bomb their locations.
Mm-hmm. Or bomb where their families are staying.
I mean, I remember that I believe the Palestinian journalist, I think she was, this was 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think Shaheen was her name. She was like a Palestinian Christian who got mowed down.
And they blamed it on Hamas immediately before weeks later admitting it was them after multiple forensic audits were made by, like, I think it was Washington Post and maybe The Guardian or CNN.
I think I want to say The Guardian as well.
But Washington Post and I guess The Guardian did basically forensic analysis of photographs and audio of the incident, and were able to determine that it was most likely the IDF before the IDF admitted it was them. But that was after them lying and saying it was Hamas for weeks. And then you've got IDF soldiers who attack her funeral and attack the people who were carrying her casket.
See, I didn't know about that.
This is why in the war of information,
this is why
I don't take it on face value.
No. Like right now, I'm just thinking about the fact that they posted that picture, that Lovecraftian-esque picture of this parade with all those arms out of the balconies, and I'm like, no balcony can hold as many people as these arms are suggesting.
If you need to post doctored AI photographs, if you need to say, oh, this was the rocket that blew up the hospital, but it turned out it was from an hour afterwards. Oh, well, then this was this audio recording of two people from Hamas talking about it. Like, I'm sorry, if you had their phones tapped, how did you not know
that it was happening? And basically every single Arabic speaker is listening to this and going, that is not a Gaza accent.
You ran this shit through Google Translate, didn't you?
Yeah, basically that's basically what Arab Twitter was saying. They were like, "No, we know what Gaza sounds like, and this ain't it."
Then there was the so-called plans that they found on dead Hamas terrorists that supposedly detailed what they were going to do when they got into Israel. Part of which included attacking schools and taking children hostage on the Sabbath. Take all the time you need on that. Anybody who's listening. So
that don't sound right.
The thing is, what Hamas did was heinous enough without having to make shit up about it. So it leads me to have...
It's framing the guilty party. This is ironic. It's giving Mark Furman. It's giving Mark Furman.
Which is ironic because Netanyahu has said the N-word too.
Oh, listen, right now, the tea in Miami is this. Netanyahu's son lives in Miami. He's been here since like April. Now remember, Israel got an all hands going on. People are getting on planes. They are taking that El Al flight to Ben Gurion as we speak. Been in the States 4 or 5 years. They still answering the call. Some people are actually going in to serve. Some people are refusing, serving prison time. But apparently, Yair Netanyahu ain't moved. He's still in Miami. Daddy is basically looking the other way.
It's good to be the king.
Like, honestly, like, bruh, if you know anything about the Netanyahu family, the Netanyahu clan, you like, that is the kind of thing you like. So he's not coming? He's still eligible. And this is where, the meaner people will say the wrong Netanyahu died. The wrong Netanyahu brother died. So, I mean,
I just think there is too much bloodlust on, and there are a lot of people in power who are really invested in the idea that there is an acceptable amount of civilian casualties in order to make up for civilian casualties. And I think it would be great if the people who have the balance of power on their side would exercise some form of self-control. Because I will say that if Israel came in a measured and precise way and started operations against Hamas in a way that didn't involve 6,000 bombs in 1 week and 9,000 dead people, I would think that public perception of this would be a lot more on Israel's side.
Very much so. If they'd have said, hey, listen.
I mean, this terrorism demands answers. Jewish people should be able to feel safe. Everyone should be able to feel safe.
Yeah.
And I say Jewish people not as if they are Israel,
the only
but as
ones.
in Hamas targets Jewish people because that is their charter, basically.
In other words, the average person should be able to get up in Tel Aviv, go get their fucking morning paper, their coffee, their bagel, their whatever the fuck, and take the bus to the park or take the bus to the beach, read their paper, have their breakfast, and take their bus or walk back to their apartment without worrying about whether they'll make it home alive. That should be the base. That should be the bare minimum, but nobody really want to do that right now.
Who knows what would work better? A 1-state solution or a 2-state solution. Everybody has opinions on it, but I know what is happening now does not work because the way things are working now, there is no state. Palestine and Palestinians are basically unpeople in this system.
Yeah, this is not going to end well for them. I'm also hearing about people who are working for the United Nations who have quit because they're saying you're not doing anything. They're standing here like
the UN is fucking useless, and
you're standing here like that famed meme of Sailor Moon and Tuxedo Mask. Tuxedo Mask out here like, my job is done, but you didn't do anything. You didn't do anything. Your job is done. You didn't even do anything. What was your job? Like, everyone's going to call the United Nations useless, but for vastly different reasons.
Yeah.
In other words, the Israeli government will call the UN useless because the UN won't give them permission to nuke Gaza.
Yeah.
While the average Palestinian definitely can consider the UN useless because they haven't sent somebody to say, hey, listen, no, really, stop bombing refugee camps.
The solution has to involve a lack of civilian casualties is what it comes down to. There are people who are on the extreme right, like psychopath Joe Walsh, who basically said everything that's happening to Palestine now is Hamas's fault. I'm like, no, Hamas didn't make Israel respond by blowing up a refugee camp. This is, again, proximate cause versus but-for cause here. So, no, the answer to this shouldn't be pushing Palestinians out into the Egyptian desert.
It really shouldn't be.
And then the solution for the people on the extreme left, who, again, don't hold policy-making, financial, or otherwise any power in this, there are people who say, like, Israel, it's colonialism, they should leave and go back here and go back here. And I'm like, that's not how this works. Okay?
Yeah, and I'm sorry. I just saw how people reacted.
The reason they ended up in Israel is because they were kicked out of their homes already, and then we wouldn't take them, England wouldn't take them, and basically we were like, here, you deal with it, and they plopped them there.
In the
And
middle of a British mandate, and the British were like, I don't know what you want us to do. We just gonna make some shit up and go from there.
frankly, to say that, well, you know what? The thing is, it's, they shouldn't be there because colonialists are like, but they are there, and they are there
Yeah,
now. There
they're
is
there
not
now.
forcing anybody to leave en masse is a genocide. Sure as what is happening, sure as what the IDF and the Netanyahu government are doing now is gearing up for a genocide. Saying that the only solution is to move Israelis out of that area is also genocide. So there's not a situation that is going to heal the wounds of the past. There's not a situation
Really not.
that is going to give everybody what they want, but there is a solution that involves stopping this shit at some point and saying, we're not doing more settlements. We're not taking anybody's more houses. We are opening up the borders. We are creating one government or two governments.
We're tired.
Yeah, it's over. It's done. But there will be no more open air prison, and there will also be no more pretending like this is some thing that needs to be like this massive police state and project of colonialism. The colonialism can stop, and we can stop bombing, and there's just got to be at some point an end, whether it's one state or two states. It's just got to fucking stop. And I realize, obviously that's what everyone wants, but like not really, because a lot of people just want to kill the fuck out of all the remaining Palestinians, and there are a lot of people who want to say, well, the Jews shouldn't be there because they kicked the Palestinians off their land 75 years ago. And I'm like, but how many of them are alive now who did that? There is a lot of people there now, and forced mass migration is genocide. So any solution that involves one kind of genocide or another is a bad fucking solution.
Facts. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
It's exhausting to watch. It's exhausting to watch, and you sit there and you watch people with their opinions on how they think, and at this point, I'm just here trying to just keep up with the shit going on in my own backyard.
That's the funny thing. Your backyard being Florida and having, all those horrible anti-LGBT laws that have been going on reminds me of yet another thing when people who are of marginalized communities are coming out in support and solidarity with Palestinians. One of the things people on the right tend to say,
love to remind you is, oh, you're gay, you're bisexual, you're this, and you just want to be like, yeah, but have you met, but I just want to be like, but yeah, but pink washing, yeah, but it's not like you guys actually care about me. So honestly, I don't even know why you even took that tactic. You don't even like me, so why am I going to listen to what you have to say here?
The other part of it is they don't understand people who stand on principle and keep with it. Maybe we just don't like genocide to happen to anybody. I don't care if it were even true that every last person in Gaza were horrible bigots who would hang me at the first attempt. I don't think we should murder 2 million people.
And honestly, it's not. And the thing is, you've got the young. And the thing is, you still are going to have the younger. You're still going to have just enough of that particular margin of. Because the thing with not straight people, we're kind of like weeds. We just keep showing up, no matter what. We here. We're not going anywhere. Well, we might be suppressed. We might be killed, but we're not going anywhere.
Also, I mean, I just think it's the arguments never come from a place of good faith. So I don't want to.
It really don't. It really does not.
It just had to be said that maybe we think that if there was some magic alien entity that came down from the sky and asked all queer people's permission if we could just wipe out all the bigots in Florida, we'd probably be like, maybe don't do that. Like, are you able to just give them a lecture, teach them a lesson, or at least take their government power away and kick them
Yeah,
out
it's
of
like, can
office?
we just,
But
like,
maybe
we
don't
don't need
kill
to,
a lot of people.
like, don't kill, politically neuter them. You know, politically neuter them so that they can never be anything beyond dog catcher ever again. I
Maybe
mean, I'm not even principal of not even principal of the most backwater high school.
like if the entirety of Mike Johnson is he Tennessee or what's is
Louisiana.
Louisiana? Let's say all of Louisiana were made out of people like Mike Johnson and his wife. I don't think that Louisianans or whatever should be genocided, even if
No,
everyone who lived there were bigots. Because
no.
I'm against genocide. They're not you're not catching us in a lie when you say, they would kill, LGBTQ people there. And I'm like, oh really? Oh, that's fucked up. I don't want them to die.
Yeah, it's a case of, okay, all right, understood, heard. How about we just neuter their political power? And they have to earn it back. It's what we tried to do during Reconstruction, but we stopped.
Yeah, Article 2 of the Voting Rights Act, it just keeps getting destroyed and destroyed and destroyed. But we're getting far off topic, and we went over by a bit this evening. But I guess I eventually ended up, I just had to bring up that CNN headline because of how tortured
It needed to be done.
writing.
It needed to be done. That was bad. Like I said.
I wonder, because I know that journalists don't write their own headlines.
Yeah, I need to know what that editor needs to be needs to have all their apps on their phone replaced with like, I don't know, a proper writing format guide, because just replace all your apps with that, because that was bullshit.
Yeah.
All the apps, replace all your apps. Don't ever do that again.
Well, that'll be it for today. We will be back next week. Happy Halloween, everybody. I just realized today's Halloween.
After this, I'm watching the Boulet Brothers.
So let me just check the news feed before I go. It looks like this just in: Henry Kissinger is still not dead somehow. That's just maybe.
I mean, they should have. The universe should throw a